Welcome to the home of Star Witch, where we explore witch lore and astrology for all cunning magical folk. I invite you to join me, your host Mikailah, with a cup of your favourite magical elixir and indulge in some tantalising spellcrafting and witchy conversations. Hi beautiful magical cunning folk, thank you for joining me. The dark moon in Virgo, which is on the 3rd of September, 11:55 a.m, and this is Australian Eastern Standard Time in Brisbane, so please change it for your local time where you are. The sun and the moon are conjunct at 11 degrees Virgo. Virgo is mutable earth. And with all these details that are happening, it's really important to take a step back, to breathe, and think about what is happening in the bigger picture. Because sometimes we get too consumed and focused with the narrow-minded vision. I have the chart here, which I'm looking at, and Vesta, the asteroid priestess who tends to the sacred flame, is at home in Virgo. Excuse me. So Vesta in Virgo, what does this mean in conjunction with the dark moon today? And I say the dark moon because it's when we are in the dark. The new moon is a term that's used interchangeably with the dark and the new moon, and it is more of a traditional astrological term, dark/new moon meaning the same. However, when I was deeply immersed in the feminine mysteries, and I still am, the dark moon symbolizes when the moon is traveling in what's known as a tight conjunction with the sun. So the rays of the sun are overpower in a way the moon. They're traveling side by side in the sky. The sun and the moon are the two luminaries, and it's only because the moon rises around 52 minutes later each day that after about the second night, around about after the official dark moon, we can start to see the sun and the moon separating. And so that's when the moon becomes more visible. And after sunset out to the west, you will see the first slither, the crescent new moon. So that's officially what I call the new moon, is when you look out to the west after sunset, that beautiful slither, the crescent new moon, my all-time favourite lunar phase. That is officially the new moon of when you sow your seeds and your intentions. When it is the dark moon, which it is today, you spend time resting, going deep into the cauldron. And depending on the sign that the dark moon is in, this is setting the lunar tone for the next 28 days, which is the lunar phase. So the lunar cycle always starts on the dark moon, and it will be in the sign of the solar season. So we're in the solar season of Virgo, mutable earth. And this new lunar month, because we celebrate 13 in a year, is a tradition going back to the old ways. And so when we have the full moon 2 weeks later from now, we are going into a full moon in Pisces. Now, the Virgo dark moon relates to the earth medicine, and with Vesta, the asteroid, co-joining at 4 degrees, it's a wide conjunction with the moon and the sun at 11 degrees Virgo. We still have her influence, And Vesta tends to the sacred flame, the spiritual flame. Virgo is around our body, our mind and our spirit, how we show up in our everyday rhythm. So for some of us, we may enjoy the routine and the scheduling of our day-to-day environment. We're creatures of habit with Virgo, or for some of us it brings up irritations and frustrations of being locked into a schedule or a routine. So this is why I love astrology, because it's about the individual. And with Vesta and Virgo, we need to remember to take a step back, to open up, to breathe, to pray, to reconnect with Mama Earth. With this particular chart that I'm looking at, the themes of the Virgo season relates to earth medicine and what I would call earth healers in service. And we need to be aware of the incredible plant intelligences and the elementals. Practically, how do we harvest and sustain our herbs and our medicines that we are working with? So being in right relationship with plant energies, the plant essences and guardians, because quite often I've noticed in spiritual communities that there is an over-harvesting of certain plants and medicines, and it's not sustainable for the earth. And she is the most important mother. So we are her children, her beautiful wildlings. So when we look at consumption, we need to, as a collective, be responsible for how we are harvesting, not to over-harvest, and look at alternatives around your environment and ask yourself, is it coming from an ethical source? Because we cannot keep consuming without it having a detrimental effect on ourselves and things that we take for granted. So there's a deeper awareness with this dark moon in Virgo. The dark moon is in opposition to Saturn, and this is why I'm speaking into responsibilities, wisdom, finding a deeper awareness around our obligations and duties. Quite often the dark moon in Virgo allows us to pay attention to our physical temples, and an incredible opportunity with the dark moon in Virgo to look at your physical well-being, paying attention to your devotional daily practices. Do you have a movement, a body movement, exercise or discipline that you like to follow? And I do use the word discipline with Saturn in opposition. Some people have an aversion to commitment, obligations, disciplines. So please just replace any word that you hear that has a jarring effect on your psyche or your being, and replace it with something that brings peace in for yourself. So if there's a tension in your body or a reaction or an aversion to a certain word or phrase, just follow your sacred self-inquiry and look at a word that can substitute it, that your body relaxes with, because this is about, as always, taking sovereignty and ownership of your own being. I'm very much for following what is right for you, and Virgo is about the details, and sometimes we can get overly obsessed with how everything is in our environment. So quite often it's a wonderful time to declutter our physical space around us. So not just paying attention to your physical well-being and movement, bringing in a practice. Here in the Southern Hemisphere, we have spring, and so I'm really enjoying all the new growth, the new life that's coming through in great abundance in my witch's garden. So I will be doing a podcast on what I have growing in my witch's garden. I do live on a beautiful mountain in southeast Queensland in Wanjurabara country, but also when I lived in more urban areas or in cities, it's very easy to have plants or seeds growing as well, like little seedlings growing on your in the kitchen on a windowsill. So you don't need to miss out on these experiences depending on where you live. And we are honouring the internal cycles of the seasons. So for those of us in the Southern Hemisphere, we're coming into spring, the spring equinox on the 22nd of September. For those beautiful cunning folk joining us from the north, you're moving into the season of autumn. Now, because we are in the tropical western month of Virgo, it is about the service that you offer out into the world, your relationship with your health. And when I speak about health as a self-care template, we've spoken about the physical self. There's also mental well-being and emotional reflections here. So it is the mind, the body, the spirit with Virgo. And quite often with the Pisces energy, which is mutable water, opposite the mutable earth of Virgo, we need to have faith and trust in the bigger picture, even when you are sorting out the details of your life. So Virgo is a great month to be sorting out details in your life, getting organized with your schedules. If this alarms you, maybe you might be one of these people that needs to let go and go with the flow more rather than being too concerned about everything being correct and right. And Virgoan energy is renowned for being the worrisome energy. So letting the mind get carried away with you and looking at tools and resources or breath work or meditations that allow you to drop and be and not let the overactive mind run the show, if you like. So allowing yourself to step back, as I said, breathe and look at what is happening in the bigger picture. So Virgo is connected with the higher mind and the mental intelligences. It is ruled by Mercury. Now the mind is also known as the trickster. When I was trained in some spiritual practices, we were trained in what's called divided attention. So 1 foot here in this earth, in the practical world around you with what's happening, and 1 foot in the other world, in the spirit world. And what we can find is, if we look at the psychology behind the sign of Virgo and looking in your own natal chart, if you've got personal planets, even though the sun and the moon aren't actual planets, they're luminaries, if you've got any personal planets, say the moon, sun, Mars, Venus, Mercury in Virgo, this governs the mind. So Mercury is the planetary ruler, considered the psychopomp. And I'll do more around Mercury in a separate podcast, so stay tuned. There's lots of very interesting subjects and episodes coming. Now, Virgo governs the mind, not just the earth, our service, and how we're showing up out in the world, or actually there's a lot of emphasis on success out in the world. And what I want to reiterate is it's how you show up for yourself, especially with Vesta in the picture here, because Vesta tends to the sacred flame, and there's some strong connotations here around showing up in your own private space, your own sacred space, being mindful, embodied with your practices, the devotional practices, and privacy is to be really valued here. It's not necessarily around what it looks like out in the world or even how it looks like in your community. This is the sacredness of devotional acts and practices that happen behind closed doors. That is private for you. It's between you and spirit, no one else. This is about being in right relationship with nature, right relationship with the plants that you tend to. So how do you tend to the hearth fire of your home? How do you keep the space at home? Taking a look around you. What are certain things that you find great joy in? When I was out walking yesterday in my neighbourhood, I was really enjoying my eyes catching the flowers, the trees, the butterflies that were along my walk. And it was helping to clear my mind. And I realized that walking meditation is very important for me to keep myself in balance. And so this is a line of reflection that you can do for yourself around what are the acts or the physical devotional practices. And it can be as simple as taking 5 minutes out in the morning. Quite often when I make my beverage in the morning, whether it's green tea or a coffee, ethically sourced, is that I raise my cup to the east, to the sun, and I give gratitude for the new day that's coming. And my morning beverage is a practice of being in my kitchen as a kitchen witch. No elaborate rituals. It's just raising my cup, my mug, to the east, to the place of the rising sun, and giving gratitude and thanks for the new day. That was a ritual that I read about many years ago, and I don't know who to reference that. It was in connection to an article that I was reading around sustainable, ethical coffee and the feminine energies attached to the spirit of the coffee plant. And it's interesting that out to the east I do have a coffee tree growing. So giving thanks to the day, the new day, rising with gratitude. And then at night time, just closing down the day with a gratitude. Prayer, a moment of mindful reflection. And it can just be a moment. Because our minds create our world as well. So sometimes our minds create coping mechanisms that can keep us safe. And it's like from childhood we create coping mechanisms. And with this Virgoan energy, it's about suddenly looking out of the castle and the walls that have kept us incredibly safe in the castle over the years. Suddenly you may not feel safe. It may feel that you're entrapped or you're in a prison, and so you want to explore what is beyond the walls, but you have to start taking down the walls of those coping mechanisms that have kept you safe but have now become a prison. So gently paying attention to the messages that your mind and your body reveals. And there are some incredible transpersonal therapies to unlock this information, but as well, it takes being in right relationship with ourselves at the right time, being resourced, so having your nervous system regulated, resourced before you do any deep emotional exploratory work for yourself, because you need courage. And this is the Leo transition from Leo to Virgo. We need courage to dive into our vulnerabilities. It's an intimate connection, and we need to be grounded and centered. And this is what Virgo is about. And taking time out for yourself as well to surrender, because the mind loves to keep us in action, to doing things, to paying attention to detail. And quite often with the seasonal changes, people can get a cold or a flu, and this is like an energetic recalibration that we need to stop and rest. So I'm looking at the chart here, and it's about working with these energies in a balanced way, because Virgo is earth, but also bringing in the mutability of the air, which is Gemini, which is one of the other mutable signs, Sagittarius and Pisces. They are the 4 mutable energies. Sagittarius is mutable fire, Pisces is mutable water, Virgo mutable earth, and Gemini is mutable air. So bringing it back to the elements is a beautiful way to stay in connection. And we are releasing elements from the subconscious. So your dreaming, my dreaming was so wild last night. So remember, dreams are a map to your subconscious. They're not always pleasant dreams. Dreams don't have to be real. So there is a difference between what's known as dreams clearing out from the subconscious, your fears, but also what is known as big dreams, which are more prophetic dreams. And it's important when you work with dream therapy to start to understand your own psyche and the difference of working with dreams. This takes some time to keep a dream journal and to learn your own dream symbolism as well. What is a prominent symbol for one may not be for the other. So I work with transpersonal dream therapy in the sense that everybody has their own individual dream language. You also may want to just listen to music, to dance, just be. So it's important throughout this energetic shift of the seasons to really feel into your motivation of what is an act of deep love for yourself as part of your self-care. Sitting on the earth. Quite often when there are irritations around, there's a lot of planets that I find when it's in that stationary day or days when a planet is stationary, retrograde, or about stationary to go direct, I find my whole being is quite sensitive. I don't know what it relates to, but quite often it's on the days when planets are stationary and there's an irritation or a frustration. So Virgoan energy is renowned for picking up on environmental sensitivities as well. So coming back to your own natal chart, if you've got personal planets or the luminaries, the sun or the moon in Virgo, you might be incredibly sensitive to energies in your environment, EMRs, the foods that you eat. Your emotions affect your stomach, your assimilation, your digestion as well. And there can be reactions, physical reactions as well. So your body is a strong barometer to your well-being. Okay, it's a very fascinating chart, this one. And of course, we are coming into the equinox, which I will do a separate podcast with the mythology around Demeter and Persephone. So, I know many of you have been waiting for my podcast around the misappropriation of the word witch. I've been in deep conversation and discussion with beautiful younger witches, wise crones, the elders, the guardians, and excuse me, I don't take it lightly when I'm going to speak into those subjects. And so what I mean by this is that I've really taken my time with deep dedication and focus around how I'm going to speak into that. And there will be a strong emphasis when I talk about the resurgence and the renaissance of the word witch and how it has been misappropriated. I'm actually refining that to actually honouring the tradition and the heritage of witchcraft. So this ties in beautifully with the season of Virgo around respect and honouring of the craft. And with this, a lot of beautiful witch elders, and I do speak into this as my own motivating factor as well. When you don't know, you don't know. But when you are educated, you know differently. And then that's when the whole dynamics change, because you have a responsibility to give honour and respect to the heritage of those who have followed the traditional, embodied, living tradition of witchcraft. It is a tradition, it is a craft, and many amazing beings have lived this craft and worked with this craft. So that is what I will be speaking into. So for now, I will send you wishes on the dark moon of deep rest and renewal. You may need to bring in the deep trust of Pisces if you're following your path, your medicine. It comes with great responsibility. Understanding that there will be tests and challenges and initiations along the way. So you need to keep showing up, doing the work, tearing down the castle, and you know, it's okay to be hidden away. It's okay to be in the forest doing your own rituals and spell crafting. No one else needs to know. It's really about being authentic in how you choose to engage with others or not. I'm more of a solitary, eclectic witch with how I follow the seasonal cycles. I invite you all to come into cosmic alignment with the rhythm, with your body, with yourself, the energies around you. You always have freedom of choice, and remember that there is a deep alliance with nature's spirits and the elements. The elemental spirits love music, and this is how they hear the call. I have a deep affinity with bells, with wearing bells, with ringing bells, and it's because of the elemental spirits. It's my connection when I hear a bell that it brings great joy and delight into my heart space, because it reminds me of the elemental spirits, how they love to come out and play. Everything has a spirit. Now, that will also be spoken into as a separate episode, please leave reviews for my episodes. You're more than welcome to message me, give me ideas of what you would like to hear me speak about. There is so much in this world of magic and star lore, the astrological energies that are at play, celebrating where you are and walking the path of deep magic, creation and mystery, and just allowing yourself to revel in the mystery of it all. Okay, beautiful ones, this is the dark moon in Virgo, so go well and feel the magic beneath your feet. Thank you, all you magical cunning folk, for joining me here and sharing our precious time together. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel for magical folk, and follow me on any platform where it is that you have discovered me. See you in the wild magical woods.